Her blind date stood her up until twins' little girls entered and said, "Our daddy is shy." The cafe was warm, but Elena still felt cold around the edges. Maybe it was the draft from the harbor windows. Maybe it was the fact that she had already been waiting 35 minutes for a man who clearly wasn't coming. She wrapped her hands around a cup of chamomile tea she'd reheated twice. Across from her, the chair meant for her blind date stayed empty, looking almost embarrassed on his behalf. His name was Adrian. They'd exchanged only a few messages, simple, awkward jokes that made her smile more than she wanted to admit. For once, she'd let herself feel a tiny bit hopeful. Now that hope sat like a knot in her stomach. Each time the cafe door opened, she looked up. Each time, she pretended she hadn't. By the time she checked her phone for the 10th time, the disappointment had turned familiar, almost expected. "Of course," she murmured quietly. "Classic." She sighed, collected her bag, and stood. She was already crafting the lie she'd tell her best friend later. It just wasn't a match, something harmless, something that didn't say I got stood up again. She'd only taken one step when she heard soft footsteps, too light to belong to an adult. Two small shadows stopped at her table. Elena turned. Two little girls stood there, identical, maybe 6 years old. One clutched a stuffed dolphin by the fin. The other held her sister's hand with the confidence of someone twice her size. Their cheeks were red from the cold, and they stared up at Elena as if they had finally found the person they'd been hunting for. Excuse me," the bolder twin said. "Are you Miss Elena?" Elena blinked. "Yes. Can I help you?" The smaller girl beamed. "We found her." Elena glanced behind them, expecting to see a parent following, but there was no one. "Girls, were your parents?" she asked gently. The confident twin pointed at the empty chair across from Elena. He was supposed to sit right there. Elena stared at the chair, then at them, then back at the chair. The quieter twin hugged her stuffed dolphin. "Our daddy, he want to come." He really did. "But he's shy," the other added quickly. "Super shy." And he panicked. Like, forgot how to breathe panicked. Elena felt her heart drop, then stutter, then do something altogether unfamiliar. "So," the smaller twin continued, "we came instead to tell you he's sorry." Her sister nodded with pride, and that he didn't mean to stand you up, not even a little. Elena's mouth fell open. Her brain tried to form a sentence, but failed miserably. "Your daddy sent you?" she managed. "No," the quieter girl said, shaking her head. Her sister jumped in with a confident smile. "We sent ourselves. Daddy's shy, but we're not." For the first time in 35 minutes, Elena didn't feel cold anymore. She didn't feel stood up either. She just felt stunned and strangely touched. What started as a disappointing blind date had suddenly shifted into something else entirely. Something she couldn't name yet. Something carried to her by two tiny, determined messengers with matching ponytails and one very shy father. And Elena had no idea that this moment, this absurd, impossible moment, was the beginning of the most unexpected chapter of her life. Elena slowly lowered herself back into her seat, unable to take her eyes off the twins now settling across from her as if this were perfectly normal. The bolder one swung her legs confidently under the table. The quieter one placed her stuffed dolphin on her lap, like it was part of the meeting. Elena cleared her throat gently. "So, you two know who I am, but I don't think I know who you are." "I'm Mira," the bold one said instantly, sitting up straighter. Then she nudged her sister's shoulder. "And this is Lyra. She talks less, but she thinks a lot." Lyra didn't deny it. She just smiled shyly and gave a tiny wave. "Well," Elena said softly, "it's very nice to meet you, but why are you here?" "Really?" The twins exchanged a silent look, one of those wordless kid conversations that seemed to last a whole paragraph in 2 seconds. Finally, Mira sighed dramatically. "Daddy didn't mean to not come," she said, folding her hands with seriousness that didn't match her age. "He just freaked out." Lyra nodded, her ponytail bobbing. "He changed his shirt 4 times. 5, Mira corrected. "And then he forgot to put on socks." Lyra leaned in and whispered, "He's not usually like this. He's just nervous." Elena felt a tug deep in her chest. She hadn't expected this. These tiny advocates, explaining their father like it was their sworn duty. "Is he okay?" she asked gently. The girls both nodded, but Myra's nod slowed halfway, like she wasn't fully convinced. "He's fine," Myra said, "just scared. He likes you, you know." Elena blinked. "He likes me? He's never even met me." "He likes your voice," Lyra said simply. "We heard him talking to Aunt Sophie about it. He said you sounded kind." Myra chimed in. "And he said he looked at your picture like 20 times, and he hoped you like smiles because this gets weird when he's nervous." "Myra," Lyra whispered, eyes widening, "you're not supposed to tell that part." "But it's true," Myra insisted. Elena covered her mouth for a moment, overwhelmed with something she couldn't quite name, some mixture of laughter and warmth and disbelief. She had never met a man too shy to show up, but brave enough to gush to his sister about smiles. "So, what happened?" she asked quietly. "Why didn't he come?" The twins exchanged another look, this one softer, more hesitant. Lyra answered first, her voice small. "He left the house. Twice." Myra added, "And came back. Twice." He said he felt dizzy. He said his heart was too loud. He said maybe he wasn't ready. "But we think he is." Myra finished firmly, crossing her arms like someone defending a legal case. "He just got scared." Lyra reached across the table and lightly touched Elena's hand. "He hasn't been on a date in a long time." "How long?" Elena asked. The twins looked down at their laps. It was Myra who spoke, her voice softer this time. "Since Mommy..." Lyra squeezed her dolphin tighter, silent. Elena's breath caught. She didn't push. She didn't need to. A moment passed. Quiet, gentle, heavy in a way that kids' honesty often is. Then Myra took a deep breath and straightened her back again, as if remembering her mission. "We didn't want Daddy to mess everything up because he got scared," she said. "So, we came to tell you that he tried really hard. He really, really wanted to come." Lyra nodded, "And we wanted to ask if maybe you won't be mad at him." Elena felt her eyes sting. She blinked the feeling away, offering them a soft smile instead. "I'm not mad," she said. "I promise." Both girls visibly relaxed, shoulders dropping at the same time like synchronized swimmers. Myra leaned forward, hopeful. "So, you'll give him another chance?" Elena looked at their matching brown eyes, so earnest, so trusting, and felt something inside her loosen, soften, melt. "Yes," she whispered. "I think I will." The twins broke into identical, glowing grins. And just like that, Elena realized she wasn't just talking to two little girls. She was talking to the bravest wingmen and the fiercest protectors a shy father could ever hope for. Elena leaned back slightly, studying the girls with a mixture of wonder and worry. "You two came here alone?" she asked gently. Myra didn't even flinch. "We had a plan." Lyra nodded, as if this explained everything. Elena blinked. "A plan?" "Yes," Myra said proudly, straightening in her chair. "A rescue mission." Lyra added in her soft voice, "Daddy needed help." Elena's eyebrows pulled together. "Help with what?" Myra sighed, the kind of sigh that belonged on someone much older. "Daddy always chooses the brave thing for everyone else, but not for himself." Lyra looked up, her expression serious in a fragile way. "He gets scared when it's about him, especially meeting new people." Myra continued, "Especially someone he likes." Elena felt a tiny warm bloom in her chest, unexpected and delicate. She swallowed. "So you came here to help him?" The twins nodded in unison. Lyra swung her feet gently under the chair. "We heard him talking this morning. To Aunt Sophie." Myra jumped in. "He said he wished he knew what to say, and that he didn't want to look stupid. And then he said he shouldn't go at all because he might ruin it." Lyra frowned, hugging her dolphin. "He said you sounded too nice, and he didn't want to disappoint you." Elena's heart gave a quiet ache. She couldn't remember the last time someone had cared so much about making a good impression that they panicked themselves into hiding. "Then he left," Myra continued. "He actually left the house. Twice." Lyra lifted 2 fingers for emphasis, then tucked them back behind the dolphin like they were shy too. But both times, Mira said, he came back and told us he forgot something. First it was his phone, then his wallet, but we knew it wasn't that. Lyra whispered, he forgot his courage. Elena pressed her lips together, emotion stirring in a place she thought had gone quiet years ago. So, she asked softly, how did you two decide to intervene? Lyra opened her mouth, then closed it, then nudged Mira. Mira took a breath, preparing for confession. We heard Daddy say he wished someone would give him a push. Lyra nodded. So we pushed him. Elena tilted her head. And how exactly did you push him? We told him we'd be staying with our babysitter for 2 hours, Mira said. Which was technically true, Lyra added. Except we didn't tell him it was only going to be 1 hour. Elena's eyes widened. Wait, the babysitter, does she know you're here? Lyra bit her lip. Mira answered confidently. She knows we're somewhere safe. Elena blinked again. Somewhere safe? This cafe is public, Mira said. Crowded, Lyra offered. And 5 minutes from home, Mira finished triumphantly. Elena stared at them in disbelief. You two snuck out? Lyra gasped, scandalized. No, we told the babysitter. We were going on a mission. Mira nodded. She thought we were playing pretend. Lyra added quietly, we were not. Elena covered her mouth, torn between horror and laughter. The girls watched her closely, hopeful and nervous, like 2 tiny spies awaiting judgment. Finally, she lowered her hand, her voice gentle. Girls, this was very brave, and also very risky. Mira nodded solemnly. We know. Lyra looked down. But Daddy hasn't smiled big in a long time. Elena felt something inside her soften even further. He tries, Lyra whispered. He really does. But he's tired and lonely. And we wanted to help him try again. Mira leaned forward, her voice earnest and small all at once. We thought if we met you first, maybe you'd give him a chance. Maybe you wouldn't mess it up before it starts. The cafe noise seemed to fade then. It was just Elena and these 2 brave, tender-hearted little girls, fighting for their dad in the only way they knew how. Elena reached across the table and gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind Lyra's ear. I'm really glad you came, she said softly. The twins shared a relieved, radiant smile. And for the first time since she sat down that evening, Elena didn't feel abandoned or embarrassed. She felt chosen. By 2 tiny matchmakers with identical dimples and more courage than most adults she'd ever known. Elena leaned forward, elbows resting lightly on the table, watching the twins with tenderness she hadn't expected to feel for 2 strangers she'd met 10 minutes ago. There was something about their honesty, so pure, so unfiltered. It made her want to understand everything about the man they were trying so hard to protect. Can I ask you something? She said gently. The girls nodded. What is your dad like? Lyra's face softened immediately, like the question touched a part of her she kept tucked inside. Myra's smile grew, but slower this time, thoughtful instead of bold. Lyra spoke first, her voice small but full. He's kind. Mira nodded. And funny, not always on purpose. Lyra giggled quietly. He burns toast every morning. And pancakes, Mira added. And sometimes cereal. Elena laughed softly. How do you burn cereal? He tried warming it up one time, Lyra said, eyes wide with the seriousness of the tragedy. It didn't go good. Elena covered her mouth to hide a smile. She could already picture it. A gentle man fumbling through breakfast, trying his best. Myra's voice softened. He tries hard at everything, even when he doesn't know how. Lyra nodded, swinging her feet. He works a lot, though. What does he do? Elena asked. This time, the girls paused. A longer pause. A heavier pause. He's a Coast Guard technician, Mira finally said, her voice quieter. He fixes the rescue equipment. Boats. Radios. Stuff like that. Lyra traced a finger over the dolphin's fin. He used to go out on the water more, but not anymore. Elena noticed a shift immediately. the slight tightening of Lyra's tiny shoulders, the way Mira looked at her sister before continuing. After Mommy, Myra's voice wavered for the first time. He stopped. He said he needed to stay on land. Lyra didn't look up. She whispered. The sea took her. The words landed like a slow, heavy weight in the space between them. Elena's breath caught. She didn't speak. She just let the moment be what it was. Mira straightened, as if protecting her sister from the memories. Dad said Mommy was brave. She was a rescue diver. She saved people. Her chin trembled, but she held it steady. One time she didn't come back. Lyra whispered. Daddy cried for days. Elena's chest tightened. She reached forward instinctively, and both girls let her take their hands. Small, warm, seeking connection. Lyra leaned closer, her voice soft as a ripple. He loved her very much. Mira added, and he loves us even more because of her. He says she left her bravery in us. Elena felt her throat thicken. No wonder this man was shy. No wonder he panicked. No wonder he was afraid of new beginnings. They came with the risk of new endings. Lyra lifted her eyes, big and earnest. He doesn't date. Like ever. Not because he's sad, Mira clarified. Well, maybe a little, but mostly because he's busy being our hero. Lyra pressed her cheek to her dolphin. We want him to have someone who helps him smile. Someone who helps him feel brave again. Elena swallowed. She wasn't sure what to say, so she didn't force words into a moment that didn't need them. The girls watched her carefully, almost hopefully, as if handing her a fragile truth they needed her to hold gently. Finally, Elena nodded slowly. Your dad sounds like a really good man. Myra's face lit up. He is. He's the best. Lyra nodded. He just forgets it sometimes. Elena felt something warm bloom inside her. Slow, spreading, impossible to ignore. She hadn't even met this man, and yet her heart was already memorizing the shape of his story. Elena rested her hands on the table. The twin small fingers still wrapped loosely around hers. Their openness, their trust. It touched something tender inside her, something she usually kept buried and quiet. Mira tilted her head, studying her with that uncanny childlike intuition that sees more than adults expect. Miss Elena, she said softly, are you scared too? Elena blinked. Me. Lyra nodded. You look like someone who knows what sad feels like. The words weren't intrusive. They weren't rude. They were simply honest. So honest, they slipped right past Elena's defenses. She let out a small breath, the kind that comes from being seen unexpectedly. Well, she admitted, I guess yes. I do know what sad feels like. Mira leaned forward on her elbows. Did someone hurt you? Elena hesitated, not because she didn't want to answer, but because she hadn't expected to talk about this tonight. Especially not to two tiny strangers with pigtails and matching sneakers. But their faces were open, warm, patient. So she let the truth rise. There was someone, she said quietly, a long time ago. Lyra hugged her dolphin, listening. He and I were together for years, Elena continued. I loved him more than I probably should have. More than he ever loved me back. She paused, fingers tightening around the handle of her cup. And one day he just left. Why? Mira asked, her eyebrows pinched in indignation. Elena gave a faint smile. He said things got too hard, too real. He didn't want a life that required work or effort or commitment, I guess. Her voice softened. He said it was easier to leave. Lyra's face fell. That's mean. It was, Elena whispered, but I didn't realize it right away. I spent years thinking maybe I wasn't enough. Or maybe I was too much. Or maybe I'd asked for too much. Mira shook her head. You don't seem like too much. Lyra nodded. You seem like just enough. A laugh slipped from Elena, warm and surprised. Thank you, she said. I've had a hard time believing that. The twins looked at each other, then back at Elena, synchronized, like they'd practiced comforting sad grown-ups before. Mira reached across the table, placing her tiny hand on Elena's. Daddy's scared of getting hurt too, she said. He thinks if he tries again, maybe he'll lose again. And you're scared someone will leave again, Lyra added softly. Elena felt a gentle ache settle in her chest. She nodded. I guess, yes. I'm scared of that. Lyra tilted her head. But maybe that means you understand each other. Elena swallowed hard. That simple sentence landed with the quiet force of truth. The girls didn't look away, didn't rush her. They just waited, hopeful in the way only children can be. Mira smiled softly. Daddy always says courage is doing something even when you're scared. Lyra nodded. And he says Mommy had enough courage for all three of us. We want to have some too. Elena blinked back a stain in her eyes. You too. You're very special, you know that? Mira grinned. We know. Lyra giggled and hid her face behind her dolphin for a moment. Elena took a slow breath, feeling something inside her settle in a way that felt right, as if these girls had taken her hand and led her out of a place she didn't realize she'd been stuck in for years. She leaned in slightly. You're right, she said softly. Your dad might be scared. And maybe I am too, but maybe that's okay. Myra's smile widened. So you'll still give Daddy a chance? Elena nodded, warmth flooding her voice. Yes, I will. Lyra clapped her hands once. Quietly but excitedly, Mira beamed like she just solved the biggest problem in the world. And in that moment, between a broken-hearted woman and two hopeful little girls, the first pieces of something new, something healing, began to fall gently into place. The cafe door swung open with a soft jingle, and Elena's heart skipped. She glanced up instinctively, expecting another customer, another barista, anything but not him. A man stepped in, slightly disheveled, tied crooked in hair mussed as if he'd run half the city to get here. His eyes scanned the room nervously, lingering on every corner until they finally landed on the twins. Mira and Lyra sat upright immediately, like tiny sentinels. Daddy, Mira whispered, a mix of warning and delight. Lyra's small hand went up in a wave, shy but firm. Over here. The man froze for a heartbeat, his breath hitching. Then his gaze shifted to Elena, and something flickered there. Recognition, panic, hope, all tangled together. Elena felt her pulse quicken. She had imagined this moment 100 different ways in her head. Awkward, tense, funny, but never this. He took a step forward, then another, as if the cafe floor had suddenly turned to clouds. I'm so sorry, he stammered, voice thick with something between guilt and relief. I didn't mean to. Mira leaned forward, arms crossed seriously. You were supposed to meet her, Lyra added quietly. But we told her you'd come. He swallowed hard, running a hand through his hair again. I wanted to, I really did. I froze. Elena's lips curved into a small, understanding smile. You froze. He nodded, embarrassed. Yes, and then I worried I'd make a fool of myself. I didn't want to ruin this. The twins looked at him, then at Elena. Mira tilted her head. You didn't ruin anything, she said. We already explained. Lyra's voice, soft but earnest, added, and she likes us. She isn't mad. He blinked, disbelief and relief mingling in his expression. You told them? He asked, his voice low. Elena's smile softened. They asked. I couldn't lie to them. He exhaled slowly, almost as if the weight on his chest had lifted a fraction. His eyes softened as he looked at Elena fully now, really seeing her. You're kind, he said. I was expecting that. Elena shrugged gently. Kind is easy when you're talking to brave little girls like yours. The twins giggled, nudging each other conspiratorially. Mira whispered, mission accomplished. Lyra nodded, eyes sparkling with mischief and triumph. He crouched slightly to meet their gaze. Thank you, he said quietly, voice thick, for helping me and for being patient. Myra's grin widened. You don't need to thank us. That's our job. Lyra added, someone has to make sure you don't panic too much. Elena laughed softly, shaking her head at their audacity. You two are incredible, she said. I can already see why he's so in love with you. He straightened, cheeks pink, but his eyes held something tender and warm. "I can see why you're not scared anymore," he said softly to Elena. She tilted her head, curious, not scared. "No," he said, voice quiet but sure, "because I can tell you understand fear, and you understand courage." The twins leaned against him slightly, as if to anchor him, and he let himself relax for the first time all evening. Elena took a deep breath, letting herself feel the moment, messy, real, imperfect, and yet full of possibility. "Do you want to sit?" she asked gently. He glanced at the twins, then back at her, a small, nervous smile tugging at his lips. "I'd like that," he said, voice soft but certain. Mira clapped her hands softly, triumphant, while Lyra let out a tiny, approving cheer. Elena felt her chest swell, realizing something she hadn't expected. In one chaotic, heart-fluttering entrance, a shy father had finally arrived. And somehow, just somehow, everything felt like it might finally fall into place. They slid into a corner booth together, the twins still buzzing with quiet excitement. Elena watched as the father, Ethan, she finally learned, fumbled with menus, one hand tugging at his tie while the other steadied a coffee cup. The girls leaned across the table eagerly, chattering about school, playground adventures, and the tiny victories of the day. "Daddy tried to braid my hair this morning," Mira said, eyes wide with both horror and humor. "It looked like a bird's nest." Lyra burst out laughing. 3 birds' nests. Elena couldn't help but laugh along, the sound spilling naturally, warm and unguarded. It surprised her how quickly the tension of the missed date, the awkward introductions, and her own nervousness began to melt away. Ethan's ears turned pink, and he gave a sheepish smile. "I was trying." "You were," Elena said softly, her gaze warm, encouraging. "And you got points for effort." The twins beamed. Mira nudged Lyra, whispering something conspiratorial. Elena couldn't hear it, but she saw the mischievous sparkle in their eyes. Then Ethan leaned back, finally meeting Elena's gaze. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly, "for being late, for making a mess of the first impression, for everything." Elena shook her head gently. "You don't owe me anything. Life doesn't come with guarantees or perfect timing, and I don't think anyone here is keeping score." The twins exchanged a glance, clearly impressed with her diplomacy. I don't know how to do this," Ethan admitted, voice low. "Dating, meeting someone new, being brave for myself." Elena's fingers brushed lightly over a coffee cup, thinking carefully before she spoke. "You don't have to be perfect," she said softly. "You just have to be willing to try. That's all anyone ever really asks for." Ethan's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Try," he repeated. The words sounded foreign on his lips, like he'd been holding it back for years. Mira leaned forward suddenly. "Daddy's scared," she said matter-of-factly, "but he's also really brave." Lyra added, "Just like you, Miss Elena." Elena felt her chest tighten. "Brave," she echoed. She hadn't heard anyone call her that in years. "Yes," Mira insisted. "You came anyway. You listened to us. You didn't run away. That's brave." Ethan looked at her then, really looked, and something softened in his gaze. "You've got a way of seeing people for who they really are," he said quietly. Elena met his eyes, feeling an unexpected flutter in her chest. "Maybe that's what we need sometimes," she whispered. "Someone who sees us, even when we're scared." He nodded slowly, his expression tender, almost shy, like he was learning how to trust again. The twins leaned closer, sensing the shift. "Dinner's actually kind of fun when it's like this," Ethan said, a small smile breaking through his nervousness. Elena laughed. "Yeah," she said. "It's messy and imperfect, but somehow it feels right." Mira and Lyra exchanged a quick, satisfied look, as if their mission, their carefully orchestrated plan, was finally starting to succeed. For the first time that evening, Elena felt fully present, fully part of something that wasn't just about awkward introductions or first impressions. It was about laughter, honesty, and the fragile, quiet beginnings of trust. And in that corner booth, over slightly crooked sandwiches and 2 sweet hot chocolate, something shifted. Elena realized she wasn't just enjoying the evening. She was seeing the beginnings of a family forming right before her eyes. A real connection. Messy and imperfect, but entirely wonderfully alive. The evening quieted as the twins leaned against Ethan and Elena, half exhausted but still full of excitement. Elena watched Ethan move around the kitchen with care, humming softly, patting Lyra's head, smiling at Myra's requests. Every small gesture spoke of patience and love. "I think I could help him," Elena whispered when Mira asked her to help Daddy not be so scared. Ethan glanced up, surprised, and she met his eyes calmly. "We're all a little scared, but maybe we can do it together." The twins cheered softly. Ethan laughed, tension easing, and joined Elena at the table. Their hands brushed, the warmth of trust growing. For the first time in a long while, Elena felt healing wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, leaning on each other, and trusting again. Weeks passed, and life slowly wove them together. Homework, messy cooking, Lego worlds, and bedtime stories became their rhythm. One evening, as the twins argued over which story to read, Elena knelt beside Ethan. "This feels like home," she whispered. He nodded, fingers brushing hers. "It does. I didn't think it could, but you trusted anyway. That made it possible." The quiet, imperfect moments, the laughter, the sticky fingers, the shared smiles showed them that love didn't need fireworks. Sometimes, if you were lucky, it stayed. A year later, the Rosewood Cafe glowed under twinkle lights. Elena entered, heart racing. Ethan stood with the twins holding a sign. "Say yes, Elena." "Surprise," they shouted. Ethan knelt, voice trembling with hope. "Elena, will you marry me? Will you let us be your family?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." The twins cheered, hugging them both. Outside, snow fell softly, a quiet promise. Elena realized love wasn't always what she expected. It arrived in messy, perfect moments and sometimes stayed forever. Elena, Ethan, and the twins watched the snow together, hearts full. Love wasn't about perfect timing or grand gestures. It was about showing up, choosing each other, and letting life unfold slowly, beautifully, together. If this story touched your heart, remember that second chances are always possible. Family is built on love, not just biology. Don't forget to subscribe to Heartfelt Tales TV for more heartwarming stories. And if this made you smile, drop a heart in the comments and share it with someone who needs a little hope today.